So, who are you? What's your name?
My name is Martin Pastoors.
And what do you do?
In the GAP2 project, I'm the coordinator of Work Package 3, which is the work package that deals with making a difference. And in my normal life, I'm a project leader at Imaris in the Netherlands, where I'm doing projects on fisheries governance and more general on marine governance.
Okay, so your background is natural or social science?
It's a mixture. Formerly I have a degree in biology. I did majors in philosophy of science and mathematics. But I also studied anthropology some way back. And basically what I've been doing is sort of combining natural science with more and more social science.
But you did formal studies of anthropology, or is your hobby?
No, when I was young and entered into the university, I studied anthropology for a year, and I found that it wasn't interesting enough, so I stopped. And now I find that it is very, very interesting. So I'm moving more and more back into the social sciences.
Perfect. So, why are you interested in working with stakeholders through a participatory approach?
Why? But this sort of gradually emerged in the projects I've been involved in. I've had a long experience in advising on fisheries management and finding more and more that a sort of technocratic approach to fisheries management, where you try to regulate fishing mortality, works almost counterproductive, because you generate a distance with the actors at sea, the fishing industry. So I've been trying to get involved, or I've been involved in projects where we are seeking to have participatory knowledge development with fishing industries already for about 10 years or so. And I'm fully motivated for this type of approach. I think this is the only way you can really go in managing fisheries.
But how do you use participatory research? Which methods? I don't know.
Well, I don't know what method you would call it, but it's really about engaging. And to me, the critical thing is being transparent on what you're doing and how you do it. And so I remember being in already, must have been 10 or 12 years ago, I was starting small courses on explaining to the fishermen how we do stock assessments in ISIS. And this was at a time when there was still a lot of secrecy about the methodologies and so on. And I've been very motivated to explain how we know what we say we know. That to me is a critical part of it. And that sort of developed into engagement in participatory processes, which I'm very happy with.
Yes, but when you explain to fishermen how stock assessment works, you are in some way doing something with a top-down approach. You know, and you explain something to who doesn't know.
Yeah.
But participatory, maybe it's when you create something together. You create knowledge together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting. That's an interesting domain to work in, because I'm also convinced that the technical way that we have had in the past of assessing the state of fish stocks, for example, is not very useful in the longer term, because it doesn't provide us with information on the challenges that we have when we think of a much broader ecosystem-based approach to fishery management. That requires us to be much more fluid in adapting to what happens in the ecosystems. And my experience with the sort of the top-down stock assessment approach is that it fixes on certain type of elements of the ecosystem in a very great detail, whereas I think we should be following much more the broader development in what's happening with the ecosystem and how the fisheries develop and how they change their patterns to adapt to certain management rules. So I've been shifting away from thinking that we could assess and model many of the elements of human behavior in the sea, towards much more adaptive in trying to follow why people are doing things and what are the effects of their activities.
So, did you ever find during your work problems because you didn't know, know very well social science methods?
Yes, I've always sort of applied methods in a way that I thought would be sort of suitable, but being engaged in social sciences more formally means that you reflect much better on how you do things and why you're doing things. So I sort of improvised a lot in the past, but I think it requires more explicit reflection on why you're using certain methods. And for example, the interviewing has been, well, I've done a couple of, I've been talking to many people, but I've never done a formal interview with someone. So although I'm very sort of close to the social science methods, I've never formally taken a course in how you do an interview. So I've spoken with many people, but never done it formally.
So probably this will be the answer of the next question. What did you enjoy much?
Well, I for the first time I did an interview in the course, and I thought it was fascinating to do. After being interviewed myself for many times, it's so different to be on the position of asking the questions and trying to engage in a conversation with the person on the opposite side. I thought that was really very fascinating to do. So that's one. And the other thing is that I think what we have been doing here in the course on social science methods is that explains very well the sort of the basic background on social science and how you as a researcher are part of your environment. I thought it was really well done.
So, what lesson have you learned today?
Well, the key lesson I think I take back is by being in the situation that you're trying to study, you're changing the situation. So the sort of natural science way of thinking about interviews as I'm going to collect some information from someone and I will take it somewhere and analyze it. I think the key lesson for me is that doesn't work. So you are, by doing the interview, you're already changing the context in which you're operating. So maybe people will talk with you at this moment, but 2 months from now they won't talk to you anymore because the context has changed and the political situation is different, and the interview becomes a political act almost. So the sensitivity to how you change your situation has been the main lesson, I think, for me.
So last question, do you think it's more difficult to study fish or humans' behavior?
I don't know what's more difficult, but I think what I like most is to study human behavior. I think it's fascinating to think of the complexities that are involved. And, I'm really intrigued by the sort of responses that you couldn't foresee because of some actions that are taken. So I must admit that I'm now a human researcher.
So you're turning into an anthropologist.
Yes.
Thank you very much.